You talk too much. That's the first reason you keep losing. Not because you're weak, not because the world is unfair, but because you haven't yet understood the lethal power of silence. They tell you, speak your truth, but what they really mean is, speak so we can map your mind, so we can measure your limits, so we can figure out exactly where to break you. You think they admire your honesty. They don't. They catalog it. They file it away for later, because the more you say, the less powerful you become, and while you're out there pouring your soul into the world, someone else, quieter, colder, sharper, is watching, studying you, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. This is the game Machiavelli understood centuries ago. The world isn't built on truth, that it's built on leverage. And leverage belongs to the one who speaks last. Now hear this clearly. You are either building mystique or you're bleeding power. There is no in-between. The man who controls his tongue controls the room, the battlefield, even time itself. Let me show you why. There was a man once, brilliant, charismatic, a revolutionary. He had the world at his feet. Crowds roared when he spoke. Kings feared his name. But he made one mistake. He kept talking. That man was Julius Caesar. He believed his victories were enough, that Rome would honor what he had done. So he trusted the Senate. He explained. He clarified. He pleaded. He thought transparency would save him. But the knives that slid into his back didn't care for his truth. They were held by men who had studied his every word, men who smiled while he confessed his heart, men who had been quietly counting down the days to his fall, and fall he did. Not because he wasn't powerful, but because he revealed too much, too often, to too many. This is the same mistake you keep making. You're out here talking about your next move, your goals, your pain, your plans to dominate the world. But the moment you reveal your mind, you invite the world to manipulate it. Understand this, people are predictable, but only when they speak. And in a world of noise, silence becomes the ultimate weapon. Machiavelli wasn't kind. He wasn't gentle. But he was right. He wrote, "Never attempt to win by force what can be won by deception. And deception begins with restraint." Look at the most powerful figures in history, the ones who ruled not just through strength, but through mystery. Vladimir Putin. J.P. Morgan. Steve Jobs. Each of them a fortress. Stoic. Unreadable. Dangerous. They didn't talk to feel understood. They talked to confuse, mislead, and control. Jobs would sit in silence while engineers pitched ideas, never revealing if he was impressed or bored. That silence created fear. That fear birthed excellence. Putin mastered the power of unpredictability, rarely revealing emotion, never showing his cards, and in that void, the West stumbled again and again, trying to guess his next move. This is not about being cold. This is about being calculated. Because the moment they can read you, they can corner you. You don't need to lie. You don't even need to manipulate. All you need to do is shut up, let silence stretch. Let them fill it with their own assumptions, their own fears. They'll tell you everything you need to know, while trying to guess what's going on behind your eyes. This is how the strategist survives. This is how the invisible man becomes the kingmaker. But let's make this real. You walk into a room. Everyone's talking, boasting, selling themselves. But you say little. You nod. You listen. You watch. You let your presence do the talking. And without realizing it, they start to adjust to you. They start explaining themselves to you. They start chasing your approval. Because silence makes them uncomfortable. And discomfort gives you control. Most people are addicted to expression. You will become addicted to precision. You don't speak to be liked. You speak to be obeyed. And the only way to do that is to speak rarely, but with devastating impact. The world trains you to overshare. Your edge is to do the opposite in a digital age where everyone is shouting. Your silence becomes louder than any scream, because silence, when used correctly, is not absence, that its presence intensified. IT says, "I see more than I say, and I know more than I show, and I strike only when it matters, and when that day comes, When you speak your mind, it won't be noise. It will be a war drum, a command. A verdict. But there's something even darker beneath this truth, something most people can't stomach. Silence exposes the weak, because the ones who can't sit in silence, the ones who rush to fill the void, they are the most afraid of judgment, afraid of being misunderstood, afraid of what might surface in their own minds. When you learn to master silence, you force others to reveal who they really are. They break under the weight of not knowing what you think. And in that breaking, you gain absolute clarity. You see their fears, their insecurities, their hunger for approval. And once you see it, you can use it. That's what Machiavelli knew. That's what power really is. It's not about shouting your truth. It's about knowing theirs and weaponizing it while staying silent about your own. You've already spoken enough. Now it's time to become unreadable, because the moment you do, the game shifts, and the world will begin to orbit you. You've tasted the first law. But there's more. There's something deeper. A second truth no one tells you. The reason you keep getting tested, disrespected, underestimated. And it has nothing to do with your talent. Let's go there next. You want to know why they don't respect you? Why they smile to your face and mock you behind closed doors? Why they ignore your opinions, question your value, test your limits? It's not because you're unworthy, it's because you've made yourself too available. Machiavelli wrote, "Men in general judge more from appearances than from reality. All men have eyes, but few have the gift of penetration." You keep showing up, explaining, justifying, proving. You've turned your presence into background noise. You are everywhere, so they value you nowhere. You don't get tested because you're weak. You get tested because you haven't taught them fear. And without fear, there is no respect. This is the second lesson. Be rare. Be dangerous. Be missed. People only start valuing your presence when they feel the pain of your absence. Right now, you're too easy to reach, too easy to predict, and deep down, they know it. You walk into a room trying to be liked. You say yes to avoid conflict. You overshare so they won't misunderstand you. But all you're doing is handing them the map to your soul. And when they see it's easy to reach your heart, they stop guarding their own. Let me tell you a story. There was once a young prince, eager to prove himself. He thought generosity would win loyalty. He gave money, land, titles. He believed if people saw his goodness, they'd give their lives for him. But all it earned him was contempt. His enemies plotted faster. His allies drifted. His generosity was seen as weakness. His kindness mistaken for insecurity. Then, he vanished. He stopped appearing in court. He withdrew his favor. He became unpredictable. Now they had to chase his approval. Now they whispered in the halls, wondering what he thought. Now, his silence wasn't emptiness. It was pressure. That prince? He became feared, and then, finally respected. Because when you're always visible, you're forgettable. But when you disappear, they remember your weight. You've been trying to dominate from the outside in. More followers, more attention, more validation. But real power begins from the inside out. When your time, your energy, your presence becomes scarce. You stop answering every message. You stop reacting to every insult. You stop needing to be understood. You let your silence speak. You let your withdrawal sting. You create space, and in that space, your value multiplies. Machiavelli didn't need armies to rule minds. He needed distance. Because closeness breeds familiarity, and familiarity kills reverence. Look at the icons. The true elite. They're not tweeting every thought. They're not live streaming their breakfast. They move in shadows, then strike in daylight. Beyoncé drops an album without a single warning. Frank Ocean vanishes for years, then reappears with a sound no one saw coming. Jordan kept his thoughts behind glass. So when he did speak, it echoed like scripture. They don't chase attention. They let attention chase them. That's what you need to become. The ghost they can't stop thinking about. The presence that lingers after you've left the room. But here's the part they don't tell you. To become that rare, that untouchable, you must first master one thing. Self-denial. You will want to defend yourself. You will want to react when disrespected. You will want to explain, post, prove, perform. But every time you do, you give them access. And access is death to mystique. You want to build respect? Make yourself expensive. You want to build power? Make yourself hard to understand. Let people question your motives. Let them doubt your loyalty. Let them wonder why you stopped showing up. Because the mind can't handle unresolved stories. And when you become a mystery, their imagination does your work for you. They'll start obsessing, filling in the blanks, projecting greatness onto you. And you say nothing. Because power doesn't beg, power doesn't explain. Power just is. You think your words matter more than your absence. But absence is 1,000 times louder. When you stop showing up, they notice. When you go silent, they panic. Not because they miss your voice, but because your silence reveals their dependence on it. That they'll try to bait you, call you arrogant, say you've changed, but you don't flinch. Because you are no longer in the business of being liked, you're in the business of being unforgettable, and unforgettable people don't scream to be seen. They master invisibility. They strike without warning, and they leave echoes behind every move. You want the truth? Most people can't handle your full presence anyway. They want access without responsibility. They want your greatness, only if it doesn't make them feel small. So you must learn to withdraw, not out of fear, but out of strategy. Disappearance is not weakness. It's calculation. And when you return elevated, refined, reforged, like a weapon pulled from fire. They won't know what changed, but they'll feel it. The silence rewired you. The distance sharpened you. And now, you're not here to fit in. You're here to take control. But there's one more layer, one final truth Machiavelli whispered through the ages. Because silence and rarity aren't just tools, they're shields. There is a darker enemy, one that feeds on your openness, your ambition, your desire to be seen. And until you understand how to weaponize stillness, against that force, you'll always be vulnerable. Let's go there. You think your enemies wear masks. You think they come in the form of critics, rivals, loudmouths on the internet. But the real enemy is inside you. It's the part of you that can't sit in silence. The part of you that begs to be heard, seen, praised. It's the need to be understood. That need, that ache to explain yourself, is the exact reason you've been losing ground. Because every time you explain, you hand your mind to someone else. You make your soul public property. And in Machiavelli's world, anything public is expendable. Let me show you how the dark truly operates. There's a man. You've never heard his name, but he runs cities. He funds wars. He builds kings. He speaks maybe 5 times a year, in private rooms with guarded doors. When he walks into a building, no one applauds. They stand. He says little, smiles less, and yet, every word he utters changes the direction of empires. Why? Because he doesn't care about perception. He cares about control. While others obsess over influence, he plays for leverage. He doesn't scream his values. He observes yours. And then, when the moment is right, he offers you exactly what you crave and takes everything you didn't guard. He doesn't need the spotlight. He owns the stage. That is the strategist's path. And it's waiting for you the moment you kill that craving to be understood. Let me ask you something. Why do you think the most dangerous people in the world say so little? Because silence is not weakness. It's a strategy of kings. The more you hold back, the more people project onto you. And projection is power. They'll see in you what they want to see. A savior, a villain, a genius, a threat. You let them do the work, while you move behind the curtain. And that's when the transformation begins. The man who once needed approval is gone. What replaces him? A ghost. Not the kind that disappears out of fear, the kind that moves in dimensions others can't see. You listen more, but not to agree, to dissect. You smile less. But when you do, it's a warning. You speak less. But when you do, people stop breathing. That's who you become when you master silence, distance, and restraint. You are no longer the emotional reactor. You are now the strategist who designs the battlefield. Let's be clear. This isn't about being cold. This is about being precise. You don't ignore people because you hate them. You do it because attention is currency. And now you spend it like a weapon. Your time becomes so limited that when you give it, It means something. People lean in, they shift, they recalibrate. Because the rarest energy in the world is a man who doesn't need anything from you. That man becomes myth. And myths rule minds far longer than men ever could. This is how you rise above the noise. You don't outscream them, you outlast them. Because while they're out there chasing validation, you're building empires in silence. And now comes the final shift. You've pulled back. You've shut your mouth. You've made yourself rare. But now you speak. Not often. Not recklessly. But when you do, the earth shifts. You drop one sentence, and it rewrites the room. You make one move, and it echoes for days. Why? Because you've turned yourself into an event. And events don't beg for attention, they command it. You've built that power in the shadows, in the silence, and now you unleash it with surgical force. Point one message, point one glance, point one act, and the whole game bends in your direction. This is what it means to dominate without screaming. To be feared without raising your voice. You don't need revenge. You don't need to prove them wrong. You just need to keep winning in front of their silence. That's the most Machiavellian move of all. Now, stop. Feel it. That calm in your chest. That stillness in your thoughts. That's not detachment. That's control. You're not reacting anymore. You're constructing. Every interaction is now deliberate. Every step you take is loaded with purpose. You don't speak to connect. You speak to shape reality. You've burned the old version of you. The one who over-explained, over-gave, over-needed. And from those ashes, you've forged something terrifying. A mind that doesn't flinch. A presence that doesn't beg. A power that no one can predict. This is where most people stop. They taste power, they glimpse silence, and they think they've arrived. But there's one more layer. Because just as silence is a shield, there is one final element that turns you from a strategist into a legend. It's not just about power, it's about influence so deep. You control the game without even being in the room. Let's end there. Now you understand. It was never about being louder. It was never about getting everyone to see you. It was about control of yourself first, and then of the world around you. You've been told your whole life that power comes from being liked, from being accepted, from being understood. But that was the lie. Because the truth is, power comes from being needed, but not owned, from being respected, even when feared, from walking into a room and saying nothing, and still shifting the temperature. That's what you've built. That's who you are now. And the ones who used to laugh, the ones who underestimated you, they don't laugh anymore. Because they can't read you anymore. You've become illegible, unpredictable, unavailable, unshakable. They don't know if you're plotting, resting, rising, or watching. And that is the final evolution. You are now everywhere and nowhere. You are the rumor behind closed doors, the tension in the air, the presence they feel, even when you're not there. Let me show you what that looks like. There's a woman. She never speaks at meetings unless she has something surgical to say. People think she's cold. But when the company needs to pivot, guess who they beg for answers? There's a man. He goes off-grid, doesn't post, doesn't comment. They whisper, did he quit? Is he failing? Then suddenly he drops a product, a speech, a move that shifts the entire market. That's how shadow works. It doesn't compete. It orchestrates. That's the game you're in now. The game of unseen influence, because influence that's seen is influence that can be copied, attacked, diluted. But influence they can't name, that's immortal. You've crossed the threshold. The old you, he needed validation. He gave too much. He reacted, chased, explained. Now, you let people wonder, you let them overthink, you let them drown in the silence you've mastered. That silence is no longer emptiness. It's pressure. And you're no longer just a person in their lives. You're the standard, the ghost they measure themselves against, the mind they try and fail to decode. There's something Machiavelli understood better than anyone. That perception is power, but mystery is the source of it all. Once they understand you, they can control you. But when you vanish, when you evolve, when you reappear reborn, they have nothing to grasp. And now, you're not just in control. You're in command. Of your energy. Of your time. Of your name. Because that's the last revelation, the one most people never touch. True dominance isn't what you say. It's what you don't say. But they still obey. So where does this leave you? You're not the noise. You are the frequency beneath it. You don't scream for attention. You shape the atmosphere. You don't ask to be chosen. You build things so magnetic, they gravitate to you. Your power doesn't come from volume.it, comes from gravity. Because gravity doesn't beg.it pulls. Now pause. Look around your life. Look at the people still trying to control how you're seen. The ones trying to provoke a reaction. Don't answer them. Let them feel your silence. Let them be haunted by the fact that they no longer have access. You're not playing that game anymore. You're building an empire they'll never be invited into. And by the time they realize, you won't even be in the same arena. Because kings don't attend petty battles. They send storms from the mountains. You're the storm now. So shut up and win. Not with noise, but with moves they'll never see coming. This is your time. Now disappear and return when it's too late for them to catch up. They wanted noise, you gave them silence. They wanted your weakness, you gave them distance. And now, they'll have to watch as you win in front of their silence. Forever.